According to the Education Review Office, ERO, a substantial overhaul of the underfunded attendance system is needed as chronic absenteeism reaches crisis point. And they published a report yesterday, and they said 80,000 children are chronically absent in Term 2 this year, 80,000. Generally, the worst of the 4 school terms in terms of attendance. It said that meant 1 in 10 kids are missing more than 30% of class at that term time. And that's double 10 years ago, the figure 10 years ago. It added that more than half of the absent students blamed mental health and more than a quarter cited physical health. The report also said students from low-income areas were 6 times more likely than other students to be chronically absent. Associate Minister of Education is ACT Leader David Seymour, and he joins me now. David, a very good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Leah.
Gosh, it's been a while. How have you been?
Far too long, but I'm well.
Good. Look, there's a few issues, David, I'd like to get your thoughts on, but we'll start with the ERO report. These numbers are obviously disturbing. The report recommends more funding. Well, it recommends a lot of things, but one of the things I picked up on was the attendance services and more support for struggling families and students. Are you looking at providing more funding?
Yeah. Well, first of all, yes, I believe that will be necessary. I don't think funding's the only answer. There's also a lot of scope to do stuff smarter, which is what most of the report's about. But if you look at the basic numbers, I mean, you've got about 300 people in attendance service. You've got about 80,000 kids who are chronically absent, meaning that they miss more than 30% of school. And the idea that 300 people can chase 80,000 people, it's almost 300 each, the numbers pretty challenging. So,
yeah.
Yep, but I also think that we've got to get the school boards, youth aid police, Oranga Tamariki, MSD, the schools themselves, the school leadership teams, working better. And most importantly, we've got to put duties onto parents and students. And what the government's proposing with the STAR system or stepped attendance response scheme is precisely a proposal that we're going to actually make sure that we have a role for each of those groups, the parents, the students, the school, the community groups like the police and Oranga Tamariki and so on, in order that whatever's happening with the kids' attendance or non-attendance, it's clear what role each person has to play to make sure they're back at school.
Because it does feel, David, at the moment, some schools run very different approaches to it. Others, are more stricter than others, and it's not moving cohesively. I gather this is what the STARS proposes to do.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, and it's really what the ERO report finds. So what's absolutely critical is that we make sure that we have a mandatory attendance plan for each school that will be in place by the start of 2026. That gets them a year to get it in place and do it genuinely. And it is true, it's all about getting everyone up to the same standard, because I've been visiting schools which do it really well, and they usually have their youth aid cop, their MSD, their attendance officer, attendance services, which is outside the school, as opposed to an attendance officer being inside. They have all of those groups working together to make sure kids stay at school, get them back if they become truant, and also to make sure that if they find themselves reintegrated to school, they actually get them readapted so that they'll stay. That's the real risk, is that you get them back but they leave again, because once you've lost them a few times, the chance of them being truant again is incredibly good.
David, $153 million has been allocated to convert 35 state schools into charter schools next year and create 15 new charter schools. Can you tell us how that's progressing?
Really well. So we've had 80 organisations throughout the community, including some schools that would currently state schools that would like to convert, becoming charter schools. And basically, I think what people are saying is, look, what we're doing is not working. Too many kids disengaged, test scores going down, people disillusioned with education. But there are people out there in the community who have ideas about how they could do it better. And what we need to do is make sure that those people are properly engaged and have an opportunity to use the money that would have been spent on those kids anyway. So at the end of the day, it's not really extra money because we're always going to give those kids an education.
I know. David, are you skydiving at the moment, or you're out in the wind?
No, I'm actually outside McDonald's in Cambridge. Long story short, I'll turn the other way. Hopefully
good man.
That'll be better.
That sounds good. Hey, that's good. No, 80. You've said you've had about some 80 organisations looking into charter schools. Has that surprised you?
Yeah, that's right. Little yes and no. I mean, it's yes because it's pretty hard to put together an application, but no because I know that there's demand for this. When people say, the education system has enough choice and enough flexibility and everyone's basically happy with it, that's just not true. And there are a huge number of people out in our communities who say, well, actually, we know how we could get those kids to school. We know what you're doing wrong. We've got some better ideas. It hasn't worked for us in the existing system. And the important thing is that we're giving them freedom to try new things, but we're also saying, look, at the end of the day, we're going to assess you on whether the kids show up and whether they achieve tested outcomes. If you don't get them to show up and learn in a testable way, then we're going to actually pull the pin on your contract. And that's different from what any other school faces. No other school faces that level of accountability.
Can we turn to the rental market, David? When it was announced the government was restoring mortgage interest deductibility for landlords, there was a cry that rents would increase dramatically, but we are seeing a dip. Trade Me this week said they've fallen about $5 a week, but I know of people that have gone down as far as $100. Do you stand by then this is a sign of the government's action working?
Yeah, well, look, the basic economics of it is that if you tax something, it gets more expensive. Why does the government tax cigarettes? Make them more expensive, stop people smoking. What happens when the government puts high taxes on people working and investing? Less people work and invest, and we know this. So if you take a tax off the act of renting out a house, which is basically what we've done, we've reduced taxes on being a landlord, then that's going to lead to lower prices, and that's going to lead to more people doing it. And that is basically what's happening. The first decreases in rents in almost 3 years, and 2 years after Labor introduced this new tax on landlords, they actually saw rents go up hundreds of dollars, and that really hurt people. Now, with the tax taken off, the rents have come back. Have they come back to a level that most people can afford? I would say no. Things are still bloody tough out there. There's no question about that. But what we're doing is putting things in the right direction.